goal kicker, Taylor Walker, with a welcome off. Here's Roselli. Roselli kicks the goal.
Handball to the excitement machine, McLeod. Left foot goal.
Oh, don't tell me.
He's a superstar.
Don't tell me. Oh! He's yet to kick an AFL goal. Oh, the velvet curtain.
Walker, he's a colossus. He's kicked 5. He's been a handful. He's been the difference.
To cover himself in glory. Just coming back and got there.
Welcome to the round 14 edition of the Proper Crows podcast. Thank you very much for joining us, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or watching on YouTube at the moment. Very grateful for all of your support. Today, of course, we'll be going through the round 14 loss against the Hawks from Friday night, a bit of general news, the SANFL squad game from yesterday, and much, much more. Of course, I'm not here by myself today. I'm joined by Dyl. Dyl, how are you, mate?
Good, mate, good. A little bit under the weather, so a little bit congested, but keen to sort of dissect of what happened on Friday night because there's a little bit to talk about, I think.
100%. Was a big game with a lot happening and plenty to unpack for sure. So we'll get straight into it, mate. What was the score from Friday night?
Oh, mate, it wasn't pretty. 5 goals, 14-44 to Hawthorn's 6-11-47. Keezer with 2, Rankin, Curtin and Cumming with the only other goals. So a little bit wasteful, but yeah, look, it is what it is.
Yeah, waste was a very, very good word for it. It was basically the opposite of last week against Brisbane, where we probably should have won on Friday night with all the shots that we had. I mean, you had, Filth missing one very early in the game, Dawson missing a shot, Rankin missing a close shot, the little Filth toe poke forward. It was just inaccuracy all night long, and you sort of knew at halftime when I think we were maybe 2 goals 7 or 3 goals 7 that, that might come back to bite us. And it certainly did in the end. It was just, I thought we were actually set up very well for the first half. Our pressure was good. Our defensive structure was really good. And then we just couldn't hold them at bay for a second half of footy, really.
Yeah, it was a little bit disappointing. You sort of had the feeling that it was going to go down to the wire when, little things weren't going our way. You had the Thilthorpe thing where he just kicked it, he just poked his toe at it. I don't know why he did that. You got a little bit lucky with that nil ball and free kick, and he misses that. Thilthorpe missed out in front. Just so wasteful. So much that didn't go right, and I'm not really buying into the whole umpire thing in the second half because we had so many opportunities and we just should have taken them. And I think the footy gods sort of came back and bit us in the arse a little bit because we shouldn't have won that game of footy last week. So it came back and hit us this week, and that's how it works. But I think it hurts a little bit more after seeing Brisbane lose last night that we could have been second. But it is what it is, and these things come around. It wasn't a do or die game as people are making it out to be. Like we're still a game clear in fourth, even though Gold Coast do have 2 games in hand. But yeah, it's just frustrating, but it is what it is.
Yeah, 100%. And I probably feel similar about the umpires. Us Crow supporters, we do love to jump on the robbed bandwagon as soon as we lose a game. And yeah, they were shit in the second half, but I mean, we got a ride in the first half. We were very lucky and got some dubious ones, and it'll probably even out.
I think where it comes from though is there's a couple. I think we always seem to get the bad calls at the back end of the game where you sort of notice it a little bit more, if you know what I mean. But at the same time, the only one that probably wasn't really there was the Curtin 50. But if you do look back at it, he actually did throw his leg out at Dylan Moore, which is what that 50 was for. I think it's just a maturity issue, really. Like, he's being held by Moore, which is just frustrating. He just throws his leg at him. But it's fine. Then you had the hinge 50. That took him to just outside 50. He had the fog deliberate, where it's just done by Darcy. It's just dumb. Like, I understand that it was a contest, but the ball's bounced and he's just smashed it out of play. Like, yeah. Look, I look, I don't know. I don't know, man. It's bits and pieces, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was tough. Like, there were probably a few dubious ones, but like we said, first half we got a ride. I think there was one where Jake Saligo almost took off. Who was it? Someone's head. He smacked him right around the head in the tackle and just didn't get paid. And there were a few others, but ebbs and flows. I suppose at the end of the day, if we kick straight, we're not here talking about the umpires, and no one's even batting an eyelid towards it. So
yeah, well, our projected score was 87. We kicked 44. Like, it's just not good enough, unfortunately. But it's fine.
yeah, 100%. And I think it's another thing that the game did highlight is that if Tassie do get a team, make it a stadium with a roof, because I'm assuming the conditions probably didn't help the boys out there. It was cold, it was dewy, it was raining, it was just a disgusting place to have footy, really.
Yeah, it wasn't great, was it? Like, I understand that it's a winter sport, but when you're playing in 4 degrees on a clear night and you're getting that sort of condition, you can't have that. You can't have that every second week. You just can't,
Yeah,
because it just kills the standard of the game. Um, and I'm sort of leaning a little bit towards a bit of a conspiracy theory here. They gave 2 night games out there, the AFL, just to sort of show to the government you need a roof, or this is the type of shit that's going to get dished up.
yeah,
So that's just me. I might be reading into it a little bit more, but it just sort of sucks that yet again we've been the guinea pig of it. Like the same if we have been Ballarat. It's yeah,
yeah,
it's frustrating. But I think if we play at Marvel, we win by 6 goals. You play at Adelaide Oval, you win by 6 goals. You play at the MCG, you probably win by 6 goals as well. So um, just poor little skill errors, and we've been made to pay. But yeah, frustrating.
yeah, pretty much sums it up. So, of course, the squad this week, we had James Peatling going out with his suspension, and in came in Lockie Murphy. Like we mentioned on the pod last week, we thought that might be the case. I think you and I both said Murphy in and Dom said Billy Dowling. But, I mean, he didn't do a heap. With all due respect, there were a few pressure acts that were really good, but then there were also a few pretty poor moments. And, I mean, I'm not trying to come on here and bash him or anything like that. I think it spoke volumes after his selection that the club had to put out a tweet and in the comment section talking about how humans are footballers as well because of the reaction of some fans. So by no means don't take this as a bashing on Lockie Murphy personally, just an analysis of his game. He was there. I think that probably sums up the way that he was playing on Friday night, really.
Yeah, like his pressure acts were good, like, but that's really what you'd expect in those conditions for his role. There was a couple little skill errors, like he missed a chest mark coming out of that back 50 and turned the ball over. Then when he got the smother, he won the ball back, but really we should have had clean possession, striding into our forward half through the corridor. That's probably the biggest one that I noticed. Yeah, his pressure in the forward 50 was great. He had a few big tackles, but yeah, look, like this is probably going to sound people might disagree with me here. Probably sounds a little bit dumb, but I'd rather him playing than Luke Pedler. In all honesty, I'm
Yeah,
not
he
sure
was
where you
probably.
stand with that, but
Yeah, he wasn't great. I think he only ended up with 4 touches in total throughout his 3 quarters of game. And I mean, him getting subbed out to me was a little bit strange at the time structurally for what we were doing with our tools, but he certainly just couldn't get himself involved in the game. I mean, what were his subs hit? 5 disposals, had 5 kicks, had a mark, and had 4 tackles. So he just wasn't doing a great deal of work. And I don't know.
yeah,
We were talking about it last week. He's had a couple of decent games, but yeah, Friday night might have been a step back. And I mean, it's hard. Conditions over there were absolutely horrible, but they should be conditions that suit a bloke of his size and the role that he plays. So it'd be interesting to
yeah.
see when we roll into Richmond which one of them maintains their spot. Because obviously Peatling will come back in, but yeah,
I'd
I
say
feel like
Lockie
one of
Murphy
those
goes
two
back
come
out.
out.
I'd say Murphy just goes back out, like because we would have gone unchanged if Peatling wasn't suspended. So I think
Yeah,
Murphy does go back out. But Pedler is a big watch if he doesn't perform against Richmond, I think, and he might go out and you might get someone else come in, maybe even one of those Charlie Edwards types that we've been wanting, and bit of a reshuffle, but we'll see what happens.
yeah. No, 100%. It'd be interesting to see what happens next week. Of course, no game this week. We'll have to wait until next week to see what we do for selection. As we alluded to, setup and the pressure in the first half was very, very good. I thought we got behind the ball very well. Hawthorn just couldn't get anything going. We, of course, held them goalless in the first quarter. I think they only kicked 1 or 2 in the second quarter. Kicked 2 in the second quarter, yep. And we just our rebound was fantastic, our pressure on them was fantastic, and we just couldn't quite put it on the scoreboard. I thought probably at halftime we should have been, 5 or 6 goals in front and almost put the game away at that stage, really. But still pleasing signs to take out of the fact that we were able to shut Hawthorn down for that half and just really get on top of the game and play it on our terms.
Yeah, like the pressure was just unreal for that first half there. I think at one point we were sitting at a pressure rate of 237, which was the second highest of the season after we put up a 250 against Brisbane the week before. So it does show that we're able to bring that finals like hot contested footy to games, which is a great sign. Um, but yeah, just after half time, it just fell apart, and that structure just sort of fell apart. But these things are going to happen with a young team, I guess. And people coming at Matthew Nicks, I think, is a little bit pathetic.
Yeah,
He set us up perfectly for that game, and last year we never would have been in it at all. We wouldn't have sort of had that performance, but to lose by 4 points up in Lonnie against Hawthorn, I think sort of shows where we're at, and are definitely a contender. But yeah, that first half pressure was just unreal.
yeah, no, absolutely. There's been a bit of an onslaught of the Knicks outers just showing their heads again as they do after every loss, and I'm like you. I think it's probably a little bit harsh. I mean, we need to put it all into perspective here. Yes, we were probably in a position where we should have won this game. If we kick straight, again, we're not talking about this. Hawthorn, aren't a West Coast or a North Melbourne, a really poor team. They're a very good team as well, and obviously very well coached by Sam Mitchell, who made some key changes early in the second half and, got them on top and able to just take over the game and just got them the win in the end. But end of the day, we've lost by 3 points. And if we kicked accurately, which Nixie has hardly anything to do with, then we're sitting here talking about a win. We're sitting second. And we're still sitting third, fourth on the ladder at the moment anyway. So it's not doom and gloom. And you'd think that the world was ending on Friday night on Twitter after the game. So it was just a bit disgusting, really.
Yeah, I had to, as you know, in the group chat, I had to log off on Friday night. Actually, it just got too much. Like, it's just a bit of a meltdown. I actually had to get in my car and go for a good 45-minute drive because I was getting so pissed off reading some of the comments online. It's just I can't fucking do this. Like, yeah, some of you guys need to really relax and just chill out. I think, especially, look, social media is a joke. We know this, and sort of think wrapping back into the whole Lockie Murphy selection as well. Sorry, going a little bit off topic here, but I didn't chime in about the Murphy thing
Yeah, yeah.
before. I saw a couple of tweets saying heartbreaking, shattering. Like, come on, man! Like, pull your head in. I understand that we made a comment at the start of a season calling him Voldemort. All in good fun. All in good fun. But then he came in, and we backed him in, and he hasn't played the best footy, but at the end of the day, as the club said, he's human. He's human, and we're all human. So I think the heartbreaking and the shattering calls of a player selection is a bit of a joke, um, and I think you need to pack it in a little bit with that, and then wrapping back to the original point of people going on about Nixie, we're 9-5 at the break. If you said that to, are we 9-5?
Yeah, we are. Yep.
9-5, yeah. If you said to people at the start of the year we're going to be 9-5 at the bye, people would have said bullshit. But now we're 9-5 and people are having a win. You just can't win, unfortunately.
No,
I do feel for Nixie because no matter what he did, no matter what he would have done, people will be complaining. We've lost by 1 point against the Suns. We've lost by 3 points against Hawthorn. Both games that we should have won, and we would have been sitting top. Can we put that
yeah,
in perspective? Can we put that into perspective? So I've got, and Nixie didn't lose either of his games for us. Our own performance lost those games for us. Just so wasteful. But look, I think at the end of the year, people might sit back and sort of enjoy the season that we've had, and probably overachieved a little bit in my opinion. I don't know how you think about that, but I think we've overachieved a little bit so far.
Oh yeah. No, I'm fully in agreement with that. And I mean, next week we'll be doing our mid-season review and looking back at our predictions from the start of the year, I think we went game by game and went win-loss. I can't think any of us would have been anywhere near 9-5. I mean, we have lost a couple of games, which, as a perspective now, were probably winnable. But at the start of the year, like you said, if you tell someone that we were 9-5, we've beaten Brisbane at home, we've beaten Sydney away, obviously won a showdown, beaten the Giants at home, gone close to the Suns away. It's easy to think of it now because, we are playing a bit better, but our expectations at the start of the year were a lot lower than where we are at the moment. So I just don't understand all of the hate that's just all of a sudden coming out because we've lost one game. And bigger picture, realistically, we probably should have lost last week against Brisbane and we just flipped the script. So we should really just be in the same spot, all things being normal. So, yeah.
I'm gonna say if we lost last week, we probably, which sounds ridiculous, we lost last week. We probably would have won this week. Yeah. What would
Yeah.
what would what would people have said if it went the other way around?
Exactly right.
People. Look, I don't understand. We should have lost last week. We should have won this week. As you said, we just flipped the script. Would people be in a different opinion because we won away? I don't get it. Some people are just going to complain no matter what. They just can't enjoy what's actually happening at the moment. I understand that we should be in a better position, but come on, man, we're overachieving. Just let the season play out. I think you might be a little bit surprised at what happens.
Yeah. No, exactly right. I mean, and looking at our draw for the rest of the year, we're in a good spot. We've probably got 3 or 4 50-50 games, and if we snag 2 or 3 of them, then we're looking at really strongly contending for top 4. So, I mean, we all want, we want to be first. We don't want to lose at any point ever. But the crash out from, what is as holistically not that bad of a loss, other than the poor goal kicking, which that isn't really anything structural or tactical or anything like that, is it's a bit over the top for me. It's just exhausting. We've been through the trenches of 2020 in the last couple of years, and we're at this point now where we can enjoy footy and get going, and we've still got people complaining about it. Like, would you rather go back to 2020 where we, didn't win a game for a whole year, or?
Yeah, look, and I think people might get a little bit frustrated sort of sitting here listening to this, but at the same time, if the shoe fits, and maybe it's time to sort of reassess of where you're at and going from there. People might think that sort of happy clappers saying, back the boys in, back the boys in, but I think it's just a realistic stance of where we're at. But
Yeah.
that's fine. We'll move on, or I'm just going to keep ranting about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We could talk all afternoon about it if we wanted to, but we'll move into some positives. Dan Curtin, I made a comment on the AFL post of his shot early on. Can you get the Rising Star nomination 2 weeks in a row? Because he was fantastic again on Friday night. He was floating around the ground, taking marks absolutely everywhere, kicking goals, running the wing. We've spoken about him the last couple of weeks, Dyl, but how'd you see his game?
He's a weapon, isn't he? Like, second year, 197 centimetres, and his last month of footy has been great. He's sort of making that wing his own, just taking big marks, just really starting to use the ball well, really starting to make a presence. And the last 2 weeks, his first quarters have been huge. So if he can put together 3 or 4 quarters of football, wowee, he's going to be an absolute force, isn't he?
Yeah, no, absolutely. He was very, very much controlling the game and one of our very important pieces early. I did notice we put him up forward a bit more in the second half, which I wasn't 100% sure about. I thought he was playing very, very well on the wing and being that link man, your Tom Lynch style connector between defence and attack. So I thought we might have chucked him up forward a little bit too much, but he was clunking absolutely everything and giving us goal scoring opportunities. So understandable, but the more experience he gets and the further he pushes up the ground, I think the better off he's going to be. And he's sort of moulding into that position where we haven't known for a long time where his best spot is. Feels like the wing might be where it is.
Yeah, 100%. Like, his first half, he had 9 touches, 5 marks. And all of those touches were kicks as well. He went at, what did he go at? I know I said last week. I think disposal efficiency is the
70%.
it's the worst stat in the game because you kick it 40 metres to a pack, it counts as an effective disposal. But he had 3 turnovers. He had 7 intercepts as well. Like, he's just getting in and under. He's just been a great pick, really. And if we can get his brother as well, whoo, 2
Yeah,
Curtins on the same team. But we'll have a chat about that next week in the mid-season.
absolutely we will. So Dan Curtin was very good. Wanted to get your thoughts on Brodie Smith. I mean, he came on at 3/4 time or just before 3/4 time, maybe. Had 4 touches, 1 kick, 3 handballs, 2 marks, and 3 tackles. I mean, he had a couple of good pressure tackles, but I thought as a whole he probably didn't really inject himself as much in comparison to last week, where he was straight in and around and doing a lot of stuff. There was
Yeah.
one particular moment in the middle of the ground when Hawthorn were going forward, and I can't remember the Hawks player who he probably should have tackled, but kind of shirked off the contest a bit and just cost us. I can't remember if they kicked the goal from it, but yeah, it was just a moment in the middle of the ground that was just probably he'd like his time again to be act
Yeah.
a little bit different and stick that tackle, but just didn't do a great deal.
Oh, yeah, I just don't really have an opinion on it, to be honest. I didn't see, I watched the entire game, but I just didn't take much notice of him, which is
Yeah,
probably the perfect, and analysis of his game. He didn't, he didn't really impact the game as we saw in the last few weeks. Like, he had a massive tackle late in the fourth, deep in our forward 50, that nearly resulted in a goal. That was probably his best moment, but yeah, um, I wouldn't mind him going out against Richmond and maybe giving a Charlie Edwards debut out in the G against Richmond.
yeah,
Probably going to be the best chance to do it. So maybe watch his space on that one. But yeah, look, if he plays from the sub again, that's fine. I wouldn't mind it. But yeah, he didn't really impact the game, did he?
yeah. Nah, didn't come on and do a hell of a lot, but that's all right. I mean, it'd be really hard to insert yourself in a game like that where at 3/4 time, there's how many goals kicked between the two teams? 8 goals kicked between the two teams. It's an absolute scrap. So pretty hard to insert yourself into that and just really make a big impact. We made a mention before of Peds getting subbed out where the tools were, not doing a heap. I mean, between Tex, Thilthorpe, and Fogg, we had 0 goals 3, 0 goals 6. Where's Darcy Fogarty?
He kicked the behind. 0 goes
0.
7, but yeah.
Yeah, and I mean they just weren't doing a lot. They,
No.
it wasn't a night for tools. That's no hit on them, but I mean, it
Yeah.
just seemed strange to sub Pedler out instead of. I was saying that Tex was probably ready to be subbed out, and
I think we were sitting there, we were having a chat in the group chat, and as Smith came on, I think I'd said time for Tex off, Smith on, and we saw Smith come on, and I think we were both in agreement. But yeah, here comes Tex off, and then they sort of went to Pedler, and that is probably the one disagreement I had of the coaching staff and the way that we sort of set up on Friday night is that decision. Um, and yeah, look, I don't know, like I think the biggest one that concerned me was Tex on Friday night. He didn't do a hell of a lot, and if he dishes up another performance like that, I think it might be time to start having some uncomfortable conversations. I don't know where you stand with that, but
yeah, no, I think he definitely looked his age on Friday night. I
like
mean, what did
conditions
he?
didn't suit, obviously.
Yeah,
I know, and it probably sounds a little bit ridiculous because only a couple of weeks ago we were sitting here singing their praises of how it's been nice to have a three-headed attack and all of this stuff, and they don't get in each other's way, and they all play in that straight line down the ground. They have their own roles, but all of a sudden we're having this conversation. So I don't know if it's a little bit unfair because conditions didn't suit, but um, I think that it's just made Tex look a little bit weak by keeping him on and probably didn't give him the greatest look, but yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, at the end of the day, he still had 5 marks, had 3 tackles, still had 12 touches. He had a very similar game to Thilthorpe. I mean, they both kicked 3 points. Tex had 12 touches. Thilth had 11. Tex probably just missed a few shots that were very uncharacteristic of him, where he would normally, you'd put your house on it and just
Yeah.
lock it in straight away. So, again, it's probably willing to give him a pass, but his last 2 or 3 weeks have been a bit off for his standards. So, probably the bye's coming at a very good time for him where he can get a week off and rejuvenate himself. And come back after the bye, hopefully fit and firing, and pick back up where he left off early season.
Yeah, 100%. Just he had 7 turnovers as well, which probably doesn't help the situation. It just seemed every single time he was sort of just he would take the mark on a high forward flank. It seemed to be on that wing and bombing it long and turn it over. Like it just seemed like every single time that he bombed it in, Impey was sitting there at the drop of the football. So I'm not sure how you saw that, but I just think his decision making could have been a little bit better.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's probably a widespread
Yep.
opinion for a few players, to be perfectly honest, from Friday night. Back to positives. Benny Keys just, we've said the last couple of weeks, he just keeps getting better and he just keeps proving it. He had the most tackles on the ground for us. He had 8 of those. He had 18 touches, 2 snags, 12 kicks, 4 marks. He's just doing it all at the moment. And I think the commentary from Alistair Nicholson on Channel 7, the Crows don't leave the house without the essential phone, keys and wallet, absolutely elite.
Yep.
And he's just, he'd be up there for the BNF at the moment, I think, 'cause he's had a lot of good games in a row.
Yeah, I think Dawson's still leading, and then he would be second. So if Keezer keeps going, you might get another tie like last year. So watch this space, maybe.
Yeah, no, 100%. So it's been good to see him really pick
He'd be
up.
he'd be in the AA squad now, surely. That squad
He'd
of
have to
40.
be, yeah. Yeah, I don't want to hear no chat about Jack Higgins being ahead of him like I
Yeah,
had in the group chat the
fuck
other day.
no.
I mean, Jack Higgins has had a good season, don't get me wrong, but he certainly doesn't have the same sort of impact as Keezy does further up the ground. He kicks the goals and Keezy does it all. So I'd have him in the squad, absolutely.
Yep.
Who else have we got? Any other players you want to touch on before we head on to some feedback from the listeners?
Not really. Like I think we covered it off pretty well. I think Rob had a good game again.
Yeah,
He got around the ground. He only clunked for 3 marks, but I think he beat Meek. He gave. Have we got the hit out to advantage stats here? But it just seemed like we sort of won the midfield battle, and I think a lot of that came from Rob's tap work. I'm not really sure if you agree with me there, but I thought he played a decent game. That's just another shout out 'cause I'm a big Rob lover. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. I think he had a pretty good game. So yeah, he had 43 hitouts in total, so he pretty much broke even for the ruck contest. Actually, he would have won because Filth had 7 hitouts as well, so that's 50 between us, so he would have won those. I don't know where Don pulls the hitouts to advantage stat from, so I'm going to have to look at that during the week and figure it out for the second half of the year, but it was good. He was floating around. He had 5 score involvements as well, so he was in and around the ball, 4 intercepts, 7 contested possessions, 5 uncontested. He was doing enough and playing his
yeah,
role sufficiently. Of course, there's a contract here with a couple of new suitors floating around, so he'll probably be he'll be good for the next couple of weeks until he gets a contract, I'd suggest.
yeah. Just another person I want to shout out to as well was Sam Berry. Like I thought his game
Yeah,
on Friday night was great. Like especially that first 2.5 quarters, he probably would have been close to being best on at one stage there. He did a massive job on Newcomb. He's winning his own footy there. Just his tackle pressure around the footy and in that centre clearance stuff it was great. So he's really think he's earned his spot in the 23. He had a couple rough seasons, but probably from mid of last year when he started being the sub and when he's coming to the squad this year, he's really shown that he is a valuable player to the 23. So I'm not really sure where you stand on that, but I think he's a walk up starter at the moment.
he's certainly earned his spot in there for mine as well. I think obviously Matt Crouch is going to have to come back at some stage as well, but it's not just going to be the walk straight back into the side, I don't think, because the two of those probably can't play in the same team. And Bez is certainly playing to a level where you're not just going to kick him out and drop him for no reason. So he's been very good, very very good the last few weeks, especially, and has definitely earned his spot in the squad.
Yeah, I think the conversation might be had if Matt Crouch comes back in soon, but I think he's still sitting at 4 to 6 weeks.
Yep.
Is if Pedler still keeps playing like a bit of a passenger, maybe Berry can rotate through that Pedler role and Matt Crouch can still play. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where you sit with that because I think Sam Berry's had quite a few opportunities to play that role and hasn't really stepped up to it. But I wouldn't mind giving him another crack at it just to sort of see what he can do, because I would much rather Sam Berry in the team than Luke Pedler and Sam Berry get the midfield rotation.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. I think that'd be a good fit for the team. To be perfectly honest, they would be a good mix like that. And yeah, like I said, I don't think Bez has done anything wrong to be able to even suggest putting him anywhere near losing his spot. So yeah, I fully agree, mate.
Yep, I reckon that's about everything. I think.
Pretty much just one of those that disappointing, inaccurate, missed a few chances, but we move on pretty swiftly from it. I think it's put it to bed. We don't have to go to Launceston again this year because there's not going to be any finals there. There's no other teams who we have to play there, so it's all right. Just put it on the back burner and just get moving on.
Yep, I agree.
All good. So we'll move over to some feedback from the listeners, and I'll start over on Twitter. James Payne sums it up very well. He said, shit venue, shit time slot, but should have had the game out of reach by half time. Keep it short and sharp there, and yeah, very, very simple and very true. Daniel Ferraro says, Murphy is so sloppy and surprise, no scoreboard impact. Pedler also disappointing. 3 tools in those conditions didn't work. Perfect game to rest Tex. Badly missed Peatling for a scrappy game like that. 8-point game will be detrimental to our overall ladder position. And that's an interesting point as well, because Hawthorn are also fighting for the 4, so could be a very important game, that one.
Yeah, look, obviously every single game is going to affect ladder position. Like, I understand what he's saying, but it wasn't the be all and end all. Like, we've got a percentage of 135. We play Hawthorn again at home. We've got the easier run in. Hawthorn have got such a tough run home, and they can't play at Launceston every week. So,
Yeah.
like, they've got who are they? They've got the bye next week with us, and then they go North Melbourne, St Kilda. Then they got a run after that, I think. And they got Freo in Perth, Port in fucking Tasmania, and then Carlton at the G. And then they got us here. So look, we've got an easy. It's not the end of the world. I don't think. Like, I think we've got basically a game in hand because of that 135. So I'm not too
Yeah.
stressed yet about falling out.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. Just go along for the ride and see how it turns out at the end. That game against them here is probably going to be a real
That's a
decider. I mean,
massive
that's
one.
an
That's a
8-point game.
huge game. That is a huge game now.
Yeah. No, 100%. Next up, we have At the Dose. Our good friend Josh says, more of the same, close enough. At least we tried FC, inept coach, and a lack of ruthless edge. What are your thoughts on that one, mate?
I'm not even gonna reply to the Dose. I've ripped him enough in the group chat, so I'm not even gonna give him the time of day. I think you know my thoughts. I'm not even gonna bother.
Yeah, nah, he was in my DMs for the second half of the game after being kicked from the group chat for being a negative Nancy. So, it's we've heard enough from you, Josh, mate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reese in the comments says, got lucky last week with an opponent not taking its chances and capitalised. Shoes are on the other foot this week. Frustrating loss, though. Nick still can't get over the Collingwood, Geelong and or Hawthorn hump, which is, because he hasn't beaten any of those, has he, other than Geelong in that first one of 2021. So, yeah, fair point. Dan says it's one of those losses that's hard to swallow, but the Hawks are hard to beat in Tassie. The umpiring was horrendous. We were, however, very inaccurate in front of goals. We're still 4th after round 14 with superior percentage, and you take that any day of the week. Facts, and more facts.
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie says Nixie needs a plan B ASAP, or this year will be another wasted one. Probably touches a little bit on what we were saying earlier. A little bit harsh, I would say.
Yeah, it's You heard my my analysis a little. What was that one? Where is that? Sorry, I'm just
That's
looking follow it.
over on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. Who was it?
Ronnie, Ronie.
Can you just repeat that to me?
Yeah.
What is it?
So Ronie. 21 hours ago.
Yeah, no, can't see it, but no, disagree.
Yeah, 100%. We'll move over to Facebook now as well, where we've got a lot of comments from the We Flyers One group, which we've been posting in recently. So thank you very much for interacting with that. A lot of people getting involved. Nikita says the last Hawthorn goal was very poorly set up. Why not flood their defence? 2 Hawks guys free in their goal square. Easy goal. I mean, yes and no. At that stage of the game, it was a bit too early to be flooding. I think there was still, 6 minutes left when they kicked their goal to put them in front. So
Yep.
more so an issue of maybe being goal side of them rather than sitting on the other side. But
Yep.
it was one of those where I don't think it was the goal specifically was an issue or the setup there was an issue.
Yeah. Look, scrappy footy. Just. I don't know, man.
Yeah. Bit of a tough one. We've
Yep.
got Chloe who says bad kicking is bad football. Sums it up very well and simply.
Yep.
John in the comments saying you're a bunch of soft cocks, can never take a loss on the chin. Biggest whingers in the AFL competition. All our post said was it was a tough loss to swallow. So I don't know what we're complaining about, Johnny, but that's an interesting one.
I don't mind the call actually. Like,
Right.
I think in the grand scheme of things, calling like I don't think that's directed straight at us. Actually, I think it's probably more people in the comments having a whinge, and
More than likely, yeah.
I think it probably goes back to the comment that I made before about people just need to get a grip at going at Nixie and the whole Murph decision. So I don't really disagree with him, but yeah, look, that's fine. It's not a bad call from him.
Yeah, 100%. One from Greg here says, thoughts, question mark, ball like soap. Hawks made a better fist of actually picking the thing up, but both teams struggled, seemed worse in the wet weather. Second, Crows had more pressure in the first half, Hawks better in the second half. Third, Hawks looked for forwards to kick to, Crows made low percentage decisions bombing into the forward line. Fourth, and I love the legend, but Tex shouldn't have played. Better to have had Curtin playing on Weddle. He ran off Tex far too often. Oh, and lastly, Hinge makes some strange decisions that lead to turnovers. These are just the starters, but they should never play a night game in Tassie again. And I think I agree with every single one of the things that Greg said there.
Yeah. The hat kicks forward were a little bit. That was so frustrating. I think I made a comment about halfway through the third quarter, just saying, "What the fuck are we doing?"
Yeah,
But yeah, look, it's just I think there was so much pressure, halfway through that third term, that I think it was just trying to relieve the pressure of just bombing it forward, but just lower the eyes a little bit, have a little bit more class, a bit more edge. I think definitely would have gone a long way, but hindsight is a beautiful thing, isn't it?
100%. It's very easy to pick it apart here on Sunday afternoon for sure. Scott on there, this will be the last one, says a massive overreaction to the loss. Yes, I'm aware we probably should have won, but the good news is we've made it to the bye with an incredibly healthy list. This late season bye may be a blessing. Time to reset and prep for a run at finals. 5 of our last 9 games at home, 3 in Melbourne and 1 at Optus to take on the Spooners. That's not travel heavy. 6 or 7 very winnable games. Top 4 very much still on the table.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sums it up very well. Very positive finish to that one from Scott there. And yeah, like I said, sums it up very well.
Yeah.
We'll move on now to our best on ground. This might be a bit of a tough one to go the 3-2-1. Who have you got for your one vote, mate?
I've got purely because look, I think because of these sort of the class that he showed about last quarter, I've got Isaac Rankin in at the one.
Yeah.
And it might be a little bit low, but that last quarter that he had was great. Where he got in and out of the foot. He had 9 touches. He kicked 1 goal, nearly won us the game. So he got Rankin at the one.
Yep. Now I have gone with Isaac Cumming.
Yep.
Give him some of his flowers. I mean, he had 19, kicked a snag, took 5 marks, had a few tackles as well. He was sort of around the ground and setting up pretty well. After a tough couple of weeks where we were questioning his selection, he's bounced back pretty well, so he was pretty good. Your 2?
Benny Keys, just again, he's just sort of dominated. 18 touches, 8 tackles, 2 goals, 1. As we said, AA form. What a pickup he's been.
Yeah, 100%. Geordie Dawson for mine gets the 2, and it was very, very close between him and my 3. He was leading from the front again. And can we just talk for a second about that Channel 7 promo about him? Fuck me, the guy who does
how
the
good was that?
voiceovers for them. Jesus.
Yeah, that was elite. I was sitting in the KFC drive-through watching that, waiting for my fucking Zinger box pre-game, and that got me fired up. So
Yeah, he just had a good game. He had a Jordan Dawson game, really. I mean, he was probably a little bit wayward again. He had 50% disposal efficiency, which could be better, but again, that stat is a little bit how you going with how much it actually means. Who gets you 3?
Jordan Dawson,
Yeah,
he just did what he had to do. Like he's a bit wasteful at time, but 24 touches. He had the 7 tackles. He was big in some really important moments, and just sort of showed that he is an absolute superstar of the competition. And there was a bit of an article that came out last week saying he's not an A grader, which I think is absolutely fucking ridiculous.
yeah.
All Australian captain, favourite for the Brownlow. Like he's an A grader. Like for fuck's sake, it's time that people really need to step up here and start putting him in the conversation for the best player in the competition.
100% agree. And actually, while we're on that topic, this is just one that I wanted to pull out because I saw on Friday night. This caused me to absolutely crash out. Let me just pull up Adelaide Crows Pride the Forum really quickly because there was a post that I saw from a gentleman by the name of Sean who really needs to pull his head in. He's listed as an all-star contributor in the forum. Obviously, doesn't go by rankings of what he's actually saying because he said, Dawson, the most overrated player in the AFL, surely
I
not the
saw
only
that.
person thinking it. Are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah. That had to be rage bait. It has to be. If it was rage bait, dub rage bait.
yeah.
But fuck, sure. Oh, I'm gonna start calling him slurs. So let's move on.
Yeah. no. Yeah, no, I was feeling that. It was at that stage on Friday night where I was like, it's time to put my phone down.
Yeah,
Do not disturb mode. Time to go to bed, basically.
mate. Why
'Cause
do
it
you
was
think I
just,
got in my car and started driving down the expressway, brother?
yeah, no, exactly
Yeah.
right. That was probably a good decision, to be perfectly honest with you. My 3 votes goes to Benny Keys. As I said, it was very close between those 2, but I'm just loving his play at the moment. He is fantastic, and hopefully he continues his form into the back half of the year and like we said, makes a charge toward that All-Australian squad. We'll move on to the news now, and I'm going to leave one of them until the last one for us to go through because it's going to be the one that's going to create the most conversation. Obviously, there was a big news item during the week. We'll start off with positive news, though. Dan Curtin is the round 13 Rising Star nominee and very, very thoroughly deserved, as we were saying a bit earlier. I don't know how he hasn't had one already, to be perfectly honest with you, but very good for him to get that recognition.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 100% agree. And the people that were coming up on about fucking Finn O'Sullivan, can we just pack it in for fuck's sake? Like we had people going at us on on Instagram saying that we don't watch North. First of all, why the fuck would we want to watch North Melbourne? Second of all, he has 8 touches a game. He does nothing of it. He sits off halfback, still can't get his hands on the footy. All of a sudden, he has 18 touches in a shit win up in Bunbury against West Coast, and you think he's the next Chris Judd. Like, can we just pull it in a little bit?
Yeah. No,
But
I was,
but
that
yeah,
was very interesting, and I think it was McCullough from Richmond as well. They were all talking about trying to get it as well. The Richmond and the North fans were just having a bit of having a laugh, really, because
yeah. People were calling North tax. Fucking, what do you mean North tax?
literally get some of the most handouts with any team in the competition. Yeah, North
You
tax.
know, like maybe you can focus on winning games of footy and not selling 2 games out to WA. Then you've got Alistair Clarkson whinging that they don't play games at the MCG. I wonder why, Clarko.
Oh, fuck. I hate North so much more than what I should for a team who has been a basket case for so long. I don't know what it is, but they just get me going.
Anyway, proper crows. Let's move on.
Absolutely. So Riley O'Brien, as we touched on earlier, is apparently not happy with the 2-year deal the Crows are offering, and Brisbane, Geelong, and Carlton are all circling. This goes back to that Rowan Marshall rumour from a couple of weeks ago, but I mean the big fella is playing good footy at the moment, so we'll see what happens. If we can land Rowan Marshall, like we said, I'm okay to let him move around, but if other than that, we'll probably bump our deal up and see how we can go from there.
Yeah, if he like, I'm a big Rob fan. If he leaves, then we need to, like, I would want Marshall.
Yeah,
Um, but look, I said, I think it was back in March, I reckon it was, that he wouldn't be at the club next year. But we'll see what happens. If he stays, then that's great. But if he leaves, then the only real other option is Marshall, because we get Sam Draper instead. Someone will be copying a few words, but it's okay.
yeah, yeah. Let's just hope that just doesn't happen, and we don't have to worry about it. But yeah, I'm of a very similar opinion there. Next piece of news from the week: Erin Phillips has been inducted into the Australian Football Hall of Fame. Of course, well, in my opinion, very easily the greatest women's footballer of all time. Don't give me that Daisy Pearce chat at any point.
Yep. Yep. No,
Uh,
I thought it was great, and I saw a little bit of feedback saying that she shouldn't be inducted because, what has she done for football? But I think I think that's absolute rubbish. To
yeah,
be honest with you, people were saying it's the AFL Hall of Fame. It's not the AFL Hall of Fame. It's the Australian Football Hall of Fame, and what she's done for the women's game is just crazy. The speech that she gave as well, I'm not sure if you've seen it, Benny, was
yeah,
absolutely unreal. Going on, and should have gave a shout out to her dad, saying, um, he was teaching her at 13 years of age, damn well knowing that at the time she couldn't do anything with it, but he still put the work in with her, and now she's up there in the Hall of Fame as well. So I
yeah,
thought that was I thought that was a beautiful speech, and very well deserved for her to be in the Hall of Fame with Daisy. So nah, great
yeah.
great stuff, great stuff.
Very, very strongly deserves the patriot for the women's game, and yeah, as I said, get the get the best and fairest medal named after her ASAP, because she's very clearly the best player to grace the field for the women's league in the last few years.
Yep,
Um,
I think that may happen as well. It
has
might
to,
take a little. I think it will take a little bit. I think, but I think that it will turn into the Phillips medal.
yeah. I mean, it has to. I mean, it's probably going to be there's going to be a Pierce and a Phillips, either or, best on grand final day, and then the season one.
Yep.
Given that Phillips has won a few more flags than Daisy in the AFL, it's probably going to be the best on ground in the granny is the Phillips medal. But either way, she deserves that recognition, and hopefully one day the AFL make it happen.
Yep. 100%.
100%. Geordie Dawson and Josh Rochelle have been nominated for Goaler Mark of the Year individually. Of course, Dawes for his big mark against Brisbane, and Rash for his goal from just outside 50 in the wet conditions. They both won it. It's nice to see two Crows win it in a single week.
Yep.
And now, lastly, the big bit of news, and we'll try not to crash out too much. Dom, I know you messaged just about 20 minutes ago telling us to not be over the top with it, but we have to mention it. Carolyn Wilson reported during the week that Nasiah Wanganeen Miller won't play for the Crows because of the racism incident in 2021. Has since been declined by his manager, and Naz has reached out to Tex apparently with a phone call, but I saw this morning that Caro is tripling down on this message despite
Yeah.
that, saying that she wouldn't lie about it. So what are your thoughts on this, mate? I'd love for Caro to, I know journalists
Yeah.
don't do it, but if you're so strong by it and everyone else involved with it is denying it, how about you release your source of who you've heard it from?
Yeah. I think where I sit with it is when the original story first came out. I was like, "Fuck, that's sort of tough to hear." And then the manager came out and declined it, and I sort of said, "Well, of course the manager's going to do that." He
Yeah,
doesn't want one party out of it. He wants three party. He wants the best for his client. Money wise and deal wise.
yeah,
But then when uh, Caro came out and said, maybe you don't know. I was like, hang on, hang on, hang on, hang on. That's a little bit ridiculous, because I think Mitch Robinson summed it up pretty well on his podcast, saying, "What do you fucking mean? Maybe the manager doesn't know. That's his job to do what he needs to do." And
yeah.
then he's come down and he's tripped. Oh, Hugh Jackson's a sub. Sorry. Sorry. I just my fantasy trade. um, and then for Carrie to come out and triple down is just a little bit ridiculous. Like, she wouldn't, like, I understand what she's saying to say that she wouldn't lie, but maybe you double check with your source, because
Yeah,
maybe your source is lying. If you know what I'm saying, like, I fully I fully understand what she means, saying that she wouldn't come out and just make up bullshit. That's fine, that's cool, but maybe it's time to verify your source,
yeah.
because if Nas is going to call up Tex, I think Nas wouldn't go to that length if it was true. That's just me.
Yeah, no, I
I
fully
think
agree.
I think it's awful reporting on Caro's behalf to sort of come out and to say to Tex, it's time to pick up the phone. Fuck me. Pull your head in. Imagine if the shoe was on the other foot and a player came out and said something like this. It would be meltdown. There would be fines. There would be all sorts. So I think it's time that the AFLPA, like the Players Association, takes a stand and says there needs to be consequences for these sorts of stories that are just bullshit. Because you can throw 1,000 darts at a board, all one has to do is hit, and all of a sudden, they've got a story that's correct. But all the other ones that aren't true,
No one remembers those
nothing
ones. Yeah,
happens. It just goes in, it gets forgotten about. No one talks about it anymore.
yeah, no,
Um,
exactly right.
but look, I want Nas at the footy club. And I think this honestly hurts Port more than anything. And I think we've all got a sneaky suspicion of where this rumor has come from. But yeah, that's just where I stand with it all.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And I think it was it Jade Robin? I think on 5AA on Friday morning or Thursday morning,
Yep.
who is the wife of Naz's manager or involved with the managers group, basically saying it was something that Port Adelaide had maybe put out there. But Port Adelaide are the only entity that benefits for me. Because if Naz does want to leave St Kilda and come home, obviously if you're the only one in the running, then that'll drive down the price. But you'd want to be pretty certain that you're the only one in the race if you're releasing that. It doesn't make any sense because all this does is it drags Tex through the mud and it drags Naz through the mud. And obviously we know that Tex wasn't the victim in that incident. We're not trying to say any of that.
Yep.
But the last probably, week since Monday, since it's come out, just unnecessary. And then for Naz, you're just chucked in the media circus for absolutely no reason. We're sitting in the
Yep.
middle of June where it's not even anywhere near trade week. What's he supposed to do? It's just a negative impact on him. So if it is Port Adelaide that have fed the media that sort of story and run with it from there with Caro, I feel that's a detriment to them more than anything.
Yep. 100%. 100%. Like, it's just a little bit embarrassing in all honesty. Like, he has now had two pretty embarrassing stories come out about him from SA in the last week. Like, fucking that moron Josh Money asking about his Yochi toppings. Can we be
Oh,
so
yeah.
real right now? That is cringeworthy. And fucking Josh Money, you are an absolute moron. Like, just I think he stays at St Kilda after all of this. In all honesty, he might sign a couple-year deal, and then we have this discussion again in 3 years' time. But I just don't see him entering SA at all anymore.
Yeah.
For the next few years, I'm not sure where you stand on that, but that's my opinion. I think he stays.
Yeah, honestly, I've since the whole rumours have come out, I feel like that is the most likely end game of this is that he does stay at St Kilda at least for another couple of years. Don't get me wrong, I'd absolutely love to bring him across, but he just doesn't seem like the type of bloke to make the move. I feel like he stays at the Saints, and then maybe a bit later in his career, if St Kilda continue to be the team that they are and they're not contending and all of that sort of stuff, then hey, maybe we'll look at it a bit down the road. But I don't think he leaves. I just think he stays.
Yep. Yep. No, I'm in the same boat. I think he might sign like a 3-year deal worth probably 1.1, 1.2 over that time. And then when he's 25, he reconsiders and sort of see where his priorities lie. But at the same time, it's going to be bloody hard to get the draft capital at that point because that's when you're going to have your Tasmania coming in and those drafts are going to be so compromised.
Yeah,
So best chances now, I think, but we'll see what happens.
yeah, nah, exactly right. We'll move on now to the SANFL game against Centrals from yesterday. The boys got a pretty easy win in the end, defeating Centrals 11-12-78 to 4-9-33. Chris Burgess continues his good form, kicking 4, and then Cook, Dowling, Drury, Gallagher, Jones, Nank, and Strawn all kicked 1. Nank, by all reports, had a pretty good game. I personally didn't get to see this one myself, but
Yep.
he was dominating, I think, from all reports in the group chat yesterday.
Yeah, no, I haven't had a single look at this game, mate. I've just sort of read the reports. Apparently, Chase Jones played well, but yeah, I haven't really got much of an opinion on it. I was down at the Highbury Hotel drinking $6 beers, so
And if you're listening, Highbury, just reach out for a sponsorship if you want. Of course, we're open to it.
yeah.
But no, so yeah, good game. Reading the chat, Ambrose was watching yesterday. Said Dowling, Nank, and Ball Ace best on from his,
Yep.
his judgment. So
But
maybe
like, and yet again here, looking at the stats, like Chase Jones played in the midfield again from what I've seen.
yeah,
21 kicked a goal, 5 tackles.
yeah,
That's his second decent performance in a row, sort of around the football. So engaged Chase Jones is he's a different animal. It looks like.
yeah, yeah. Put the ring on it and just just turn into a different bloke. Really.
How many? I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the stats now. McAndrew had 11 tackles. He only had 7 touches, had 109 ranking points. How many
Jesus.
hitouts did this man have?
He went off for a bit of a chunk, injured for a little while as well. So
He would have had 60 hitouts. He would have had to.
let me just pull that up for you real quickly. Centre of Adelaide. Player stats.
It's a massive game.
Hitouts. He had 43 hitouts, 11 tackles. Like I said, 7 touches, 4 kicks, 3 handballs, 2 marks.
Yeah, that's a big
Yeah,
game.
that's a big game.
It's a huge game. It was very wet because it was absolutely pissing down Elizabeth. So probably helps the situation with the tackles. But yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, 100%. So I mean, stats wise, it looks like Chase Jones probably had the best game of our players. So maybe it could be a swap for him in for Pedler maybe or Murphy. But Billy Dowling, another good game, 19 touches, 1 goal, 4 marks. He didn't have a single tackle though. That's a bit disappointing to see. Charlie Edwards, 21 touches again, 13 kicks.
Yeah.
What else we got? Nank had 19, kicked 1 goal, 9 kicks, 3 marks, 2 tackles. Sid had 18, 9 and 9, and 8 tackles as well, 2 clearances. So there's a few players in there who had decent games. Nick Murray made his return from injury as well, 17 disposals, 16 kicks, 5 marks, and a tackle as well. So he could probably comes back into the squad for probably Jordan Butts, I think, after the bye.
Yep.
Bit of match fitness in the legs and probably just slot straight back in, you'd think.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree with that. So, which would be a bit tough on Butsy because he's been good. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I thought there were periods on Friday night where Chol probably got on top of him a little bit. But yeah, no, he has been relatively solid for the most part. But obviously, you're probably not dropping Josh Worrell or Mark Keane at this stage either. So someone has to make way, and you'd say it's probably Butts.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. Other than that, mate, was there anything else that we've missed or anything you want to go through?
No, I reckon we've summed it up pretty well.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, obviously the bye week for the boys this week, so we won't have any game review next week, but we will jump into a big mid-season review. As we said earlier, we'll go through our predictions from the start of the year. We'll do an updated tally of our 3-2-1 for the, what do we say, proper Crows medal, proper player, something like that, I don't know. So we'll go through all of that and then look to a bit of a preview for the rest of the season and what that could hold for the boys. We're going to have a chat with one of our mates about the drafts coming up as well. I think Dom's pretty keen to get that going too. And then also our first interview with a very special guest coming up shortly too. So stay tuned for that. That'll all be out probably, next weekend roughly, somewhere around there. Of course, stay tuned on the socials at Proper Crows Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube as well. Other than that, thank you very much for listening, and we look forward to the second half of the year. Dyl, thank you very much.
No worries, mate. Thanks for sticking by me. Probably not the best analysis because I feel a little bit grim, as you can probably hear. But it's it'll be a good week to rest up and not have to worry about any football. Not sure what I'm going to do with myself, but hopefully come in hot against Richmond and win by 20 goals would be nice.
That would be very, very nice. That would just set the second half of the year on good stead.
Yep, 100%. So I'm keen to speak to the guests that we've got on next week, and keen to get that out as well. It'll be good. He's been a pretty big factor to some of the entertainment at the Oval. So not sure if that's giving it away, but I'm excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay tuned and go Crows for the SANFL, I suppose, next week against North.
Yep, no, go the Crows. I might actually get down to Prospect for that game for something to do.
Absolutely, fill in the bye week with a bit of footy, 100%.
Yep. No.
All right. Well, I'll speak to you soon, mate.
No worries. See you, mate.
See ya.
Go the Crows.
Ring the bell! Ring the bell! The bell in the city of churches! Stand up like Matthew Nicks and rule like you never have before!
Jarman again, round the body,